concentrating. Come on, you can do it.
Hi everyone. Phil and I wanted to start this video to address some of the concerns that are happening in worldwide. The coronavirus pandemic has certainly hit everyone, whether you are a first responder, a healthcare worker, grocery worker, anyone in a service industry, whether you are working within the restaurant industry, anywhere along the supply chain, the food supply chain industry, it is affecting everyone worldwide, and we are grateful for everyone's hard work and contributions to helping keeping America running and supplied with food, supplied with healthcare supplies, with keeping Americans safe and healthy, and helping healthcare workers do their jobs safely. I think for everyone, we can't thank you enough. I know we're a little bit late to thanking everyone, but it is primarily because Phil and I have been keeping ourselves safe. We've been following the orders that the state of Arizona has given. We have sheltered in place, no matter how hard that's been. We've sheltered in place. We have taken care of ourselves, taken care of our family, our children, are concerned for our daughter in Ohio, are concerned for our children here in Arizona, our grandchildren, and then our friends who are still fighting the fight in law enforcement, and our friends that are nurses and working the emergency rooms. So we thank them for all of their contributions.
Yeah, absolutely. We want you to stay safe out there. Make sure we're keeping our social distancing, which is a new term that's just popped up last couple months. But on this upcoming video, you're going to see some shots of our grandson Tristan swimming in swimming pool and playing some golf. This video series was shot over the course of several weeks, if not actually a couple months. We're just now putting it together. And so don't get the impression that we're out in the swimming pools out there opening and that we're out there playing miniature golf, because coincidentally enough, when you see the segment of us, Tristan and I, in the swimming pool, the next day we went back to the very same pool and it was shut down. So that's all part of the social distancing, and Karen and I are very much in favor of that, because it's the only way we're going to stay healthy. And it used to be, I think, you know, previously when we used to think of first responders, we used to think of fire and EMS and law enforcement, things of that nature. Now we think of first responders and a pandemic as a completely different whole subsection of people, nurses, doctors, you know, all healthcare workers. And again, not just that, but just the people that are delivering stuff to us, truck drivers, delivery people. I mean, without those people, we wouldn't have had a chance we'd be in some pretty dire straits if it wasn't for everyone involved in all this. But again, our hats off to everyone that's helping everyone else out in the world getting through this. And we hope you enjoy this upcoming video.
Yes, and please stay safe. If you are finding yourself in a situation where you are under the weather, certainly take all the necessary precautions, but certainly get yourself to a doctor's or healthcare professional as soon as possible. We're all thinking about you. We're all praying for you because the RV community is really small and we take care of our own. So take care of yourself.
Okay, enjoy the video.
You know, people talk about the sunsets in Arizona. Well, this is actually a sunrise in Arizona. It is about 5:45 in the morning, and we are at not Gold Canyon. We are at Canyon Vistas RV Park in Gold Canyon, Arizona, which is just east of Apache Junction, and Apache Junction is east of Phoenix. And as you can see by the empty RV park, we are in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. And there are literally only 4 RVs here, Mathilda being one of them. And we're gonna go ahead and start this video off. Yes, and this is what I look like in the morning at 5:45. It's a little cloudy, you can tell by the clouds behind me. Supposed to be a storm coming in a little bit later today. Not a huge chance of rain, 20 to 30%, but there's some clouds coming in. But we are going to start this video off talking about the pandemic, what Karen and I are doing to try to hunker down and get through this. This is, what is the date today? This is almost April the 15th. So obviously mid-April. We don't know exactly when we're leaving. As I pan back around here, we don't know exactly when we're leaving. Yeah, picked a terrible time to begin our full-time RV journey. Literally the same month that the pandemic was really kicking off pretty hard, which was the beginning of March. In this same RV park, we've got a previous video about this as well. This is they've got some prefabricated homes here as well in the RV park. It's very, very beautiful here. It's very quiet. And again, as you can tell from this morning sunrise, it's beautiful out here as well. But in this video, again, we're gonna talk about the different things going on, which is not a lot. We're gonna talk about the different things going on, we've been doing, hunkering down here in the RV park, and some of the wildlife we've seen. We'll have a couple of shots of that, and just kind of one more tour again of the RV park. And I don't know, we'll see as I start shooting video for this, start editing it. We'll see what else is going to be on here. But again, good morning from 5:45 in the early morning hours. April the, I think it's the 12th, 11th or 12th. Shows you when you're full-time RVing and retired how well you keep track of time. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, here we are in COVID-19 coronavirus self-quarantine. Karen and I are totally healthy. We are staying on our social distancing, which is a new term that I don't think that term was even out just 4 or 5 months ago, and now it's the whole world knows it. So we're keeping up with our social distancing. We need to get some video content out. So what is that video content going to consist of? Well, we probably picked the worst time ever, not any fault of our own, but we probably picked the worst time ever to full-time RV. We started in beginning of March. We came out here, I don't remember the exact date, Karen does, but I want to say it was like around March the 3rd, I believe. But we came out here, we spent about a week or two, and then we were going to go to San Diego. You saw that video. We were going to go to San Diego for 5 days, end up only being literally overnight, about an 18-hour stay in San Diego. We packed up, came back because of COVID-19 with our grandson Tristan, and we've been out here ever since. And since that time we've been here, when we first got here, the RV park was fully open. Since that time, over the course of several weeks, it is basically shut down. They're not allowing any more new RVs to come in. They're canceling reservations. I'm not sure if they're canceling reservations, but they're not allowing any more new RVers to come in or make reservations. And if Karen and I were to, let's say, leave this RV park and go, to Sedona for a couple of days, and we wanted to come back here, they would not let us in. And again, everybody's hypersensitive over COVID-19, and I get that. So we're hunkered down here. So I thought the best thing that we could get across to everyone who's following Blue Line RV Adventures, and it's one of the predominant themes that I really want to focus on, is that if I can do this, if Karen can do this, if we can do this, you can do this. Because we literally have zero experience RVing. Karen, I think years and years ago, had a pop-up trailer. I've had nothing. The only camping I've ever done in my entire life was in a tent. And I think that was when I was in the Boy Scouts. So we've never done this before. And if you guys have been following us, you know how the story goes. We went out and bought a 43-foot RV. And with zero background information on living in an RV, generators, AC, DC. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a plumber. I'm not really even a handy type guy. Like I said, I was a retired Phoenix police sergeant for almost 33 years, and now I'm a full-time RVer. Some of the things we've encountered while we've been full-time RVing, specifically with the RV, and then what have we been doing while we're self-quarantining, which is not a lot, but we've done a few things, so I thought we'd show that. So here we are. We pulled in here, I want to say again, it was March the 3rd, and we got in here for the first time ever, and I've never driven anything this big before in my life. I think the biggest vehicle I drove prior to this was probably a U-Haul truck, and it was maybe, I don't know, what are U-Haul trucks? I don't know, 15, 20 feet long, I guess. I'm not quite sure. But this is, Mathilda is just under 43 feet. She's like 42 feet, 0.25 or something like that. We haven't actually measured it exactly ourselves, but that's approximately what her length is, about just under 43 feet. So what's it like driving a 43-foot RV, especially when you've never driven anything that big before in the past? I'm going to be honest with you, it was a little white-knuckled probably for the first few times I drove her. And I mentioned that in the previous video. It's not easy driving this thing at first. It's even not easy driving it now, but I'm a lot more comfortable at it. But when I first started driving it, yeah, I was white-knuckled. It was pretty intense. But now I've driven to San Diego, I've driven back, I've driven around the Phoenix metro area. In a previous video, I drove down to Catskills in Chandler, Arizona. So I'm getting more and more comfortable with it. Not had any close calls, not had anybody honk their horn at me or anything like that. Get out of the way, you road hog. Road hog! Or anything, but it's a little white knuckle driving, but I'm getting more and more used to it. But when you've never driven anything this big before, how do you get used to it? Do you just take it on the road? Might be a little bit nerve-wracking. Well, that is kind of what we did initially. We did take it out on the road a couple different times, but we also, Karen and I signed up for an RV driving school. So we took some RV driving lessons. Karen got behind the wheel. She drove it actually a lot more than I did, especially in the inner city. She drove for like an hour and a half all around Sun City, Bell Road, Loop 101 West area. She drove it all around. As you can tell by the video, she did an exceptional job. She did a really, really good job. I didn't drive it as much as her because I had some previous driving experience with it, and the instructor knew that, Jordy. Jordy did a great job, showed us all around. But yes, we did go to an RV driving school. And if you're thinking about getting one of these and you've never driven an RV like I or Karen have, again, strongly suggest taking an RV driving class. One of the things you'll get out of it is you'll get a certificate, and you can actually submit it to some insurance companies will accept that, and you'll get a reduction in your insurance rates. So one of the other things we did, other than going to the driving school, is that Karen and I went to what is literally called an RV boot camp. We did that in Congress, Arizona. That is put on by a group called Escapees. Escapees is a recreational vehicle organization or a club. Karen and I have joined that. You don't have to be a full-timer like us. You can certainly join it, just be a part-timer. I don't think you even need to have an RV to join Escapees. If you're just thinking about it and you want to join it, it's a good organization to get involved with. They provide lots of information, updates. They also provide the full-time mail forwarding service like we have with America's Mailbox in South Dakota. Escapees provides that also, I think, in Texas and also in South Dakota. Well, again, we've got ours through America's Mailbox, but Escapees provides the same thing. And they provide a lot of other beneficial things for RVers, including the RV boot camp in Congress.
So the RV boot camp lasted 2 days. It is located just outside of Wickenburg, Arizona, between Wickenburg and, let's say, Kingman. Not too far away from Wickenburg, but kind of a rural area, but a very nice RV park that Escapees has got out there. In fact, I believe the actual park itself is owned by Escapees. So if you are an Escapees member, you double check with them, but you might be able to get a discount. That might be one of the advantages to belonging to Escapees. But we went out there and learned a lot, took lots and lots of notes. So one of the things we did during extended lunch hours, we went up to the hotshot Granite Mountain fire memorial they had up there. They had a number of firefighters were killed up in the I believe it was the Granite Mountain area near Congress, Arizona, in that area, probably several years ago. But I believe they lost 19 firefighters, and it was a really, really tragic situation fighting a wildfire out there. And we went out there really, and I don't want to say enjoyed ourselves because it was a solemn trip. It was an important location to go to. We didn't have very much time there because we were just on an extended lunch hour, but we did shoot some video there, and we actually got an interview from one of the park rangers.
So it is 3.5 miles in, 3.5 miles out. You get a total of 7 miles round trip. The average time is anywhere between 4 to 4.5 hours. Now you're looking at an 1,120-foot elevation change to the observation deck,
Right.
which is the saddle and which is the point that observes the fatality site.
Right.
And then it's another 450-foot elevation change down to the fatality site.
Right.
So overall, you're looking at right around 1,550, 1,600-foot elevation change right in between there, and that's throughout the entirety of the trail.
So do you think you'd have to be in pretty good shape to go up and down the trail, or
I've seen all shapes and sizes hike it.
Right.
So I encourage everybody to try it because no matter what, you get to experience the memorial plaques.
Right.
So there's 19 memorial plaques, one for each firefighter, leading you up to that observation
Right.
deck. There's one for Eric Marsh and Jesse Steed that are within the first quarter mile
Right.
of that. So that will take you about 15 minutes up, 10 minutes down.
And is there always a park ranger here all the time, or?
There's park rangers here 7 days a week. We have a park ranger who is an intern, and he comes up out of Phoenix, and he's here 5 days a week, and he's here on my days off.
Right.
But he usually doesn't come, and he doesn't get here because he's traveling from Phoenix. He doesn't get here till about 10:30.
Right.
And then he leaves at 3:30.
Right.
So there are some windows where you might find it unattended.
Sure, absolutely.
But mostly you'll find somebody here full time. I'm here from 7 to 4. Sometimes later, just kind of depends.
Right.
But
do you see a lot of wildlife up around here too? Or?
My favorite thing is the golden eagles.
Right. Oh, really?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 different golden eagles that are in this area that frequent this area particularly.
Right.
You can see them throughout the trail almost every time you hike it. I hiked up about 3/4 of the way today,
Right.
and I did not see them. And sometimes you miss them, sometimes you don't. Last night I was leaving, I didn't see one all day. Last night I seen one. He barely crested that rock up there, and he went back around. But I seen him.
You know, my impression of this is for such a location that's got a lot of tragedy to it, it's actually strikingly beautiful. This is really a beautiful, beautiful area. I was asking my wife, what elevation do you think we are right now, right where we are right now?
So they have it at 4,300 right here at the trailhead.
Right.
Yep. And then you do get up to right around that 54. And so there is that kind of mile high kind of elevation. And when you get into that mile high kind of elevation, the plant biology starts to change pretty drastically too. And I'm telling you, in the spring and even early summer and even late fall, the wildflowers up here are amazing.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. Early October, this front slope was yellow. It was beautiful. And then you got on this back slope and it was purple.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, just for 400 or 500 feet, just a field of purple. It was awesome.
And your first name's Jared?
Jared.
Jared, Phil Roberts. Nice to meet you. My wife, Karen.
Absolutely. Hello.
Thanks.
But I would recommend going there again. It was a beautiful location, and it was a very moving tribute to the firefighters that had perished and lost their lives. So one of the things you might ask is, you know, Phil, if you don't know anything about an RV, how did you get this all hooked up? How did you get your hoses hooked up? How did you get your electric hookup? Did you just learn that by going through YouTube videos, or was that part of the Escapees RV boot camp or anything like that? And the answer is yes and no. I did go to a lot of YouTube videos. Karen loves Pinterest. She went and did a lot of information on Pinterest, and the RV boot camp did teach us a lot about this equipment we've got here and how to set up. But even when you first set up,
it's always a new experience. Well, we were very fortunate. The day that we checked in, we met a work camper who guided us to our site. And what a work camper is that is another RVer, sometimes full-time, sometimes only part of the year. But what they do is when they go to different RV parks around the country, they work camp. They go to these spots and they either get a reduced rate or an actual free rate where they don't pay any money at all, but they have to work so many hours a week. Now, it's not a 40-hour-a-week job. I think they only work, every location is different, but sometimes they work as few as 18 hours a week. Sometimes they work as many as 30 hours a week, but they either have a reduced or a free stay while they're in that RV park. And a lot of people do it, and it's very, very beneficial. Karen and I have even considered it. We're not sure if we're gonna do that or not, but we've considered it. But we had an RV work camper meet us, and he guided us in here, and his name was Rick, and he did a great job. So again, Rick was able to help us guide ourselves in here. We were able to back ourselves in, and he was able to basically hook up our sewer hose, which was what this is. Again, a lot of RVers are probably thinking, no duh, Phil, it's exactly what that is. But again, if you're like me and you've never been full-time before, you don't know what that's for. So I'm going to kind of go over the basics of the sewer system here and what I have discovered so far. Okay, setting up your RV for the very first time by the expert rookie. No, I'm probably going to get comments about this saying, Phil, you're doing that all wrong or so forth, and I might be. But for the first few times I've set up, so far this is working for me. But the three things that you really want to set up that's important, at least for my rig, is what you want to set up is you want to set up your water, your electrical, and your propane. There may be a specific order in how to do that. I don't really know. If there is, please leave a comment and say, Phil, no, you should hook up your water first, your electrical first, or whatever it is. What I have done so far when I've brought the RV in here, the rig, Mathilda, is that I hook up the electrical first. I want to supply power to the RV itself. Karen and I have got ourselves down pretty, even though we've only done this just a few times, we're starting to get in a routine going, is that when we pull into a spot where we're going to camp, I go out, I set up everything on the outside, and Karen goes on the inside and she sets up everything on the inside, which is a lot to do. But the first thing I want to do is I want to give her some electrical power. Now, of course, we've got electrical power, but I don't want to fire up the generator, especially if we're coming in late to an RV park. I want to get electrical shore power from the RV park itself. I may actually have a video in the future actually showing me hooking everything up, and in fact I should probably do that, but I've already got everything hooked up now. Our intention was to kind of actually do that, to show ourselves getting hooked up, but we got in here with Rick and it was a big help, but we literally didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't want to start filming stuff if we didn't know what we were doing, so we didn't film anything when we first got here. But again, I've done this a couple times already, but this is where this is locked up right now, but you unlock this and there's basically like the world's largest extension cord, if you can imagine that. Well, comes out here. In fact, it's so heavy there's a button that retracts it and rewinds it back and forth, but the cord comes out here and it plugs in basically right there. And the more amperage, the larger connection, the more power you can run into your RV, and it can power more things inside your RV all at once. If I only had a 30 amp here, although my RV is set up for 50, if I only had, this was only a 30 amp connection, I've got a dog leg to basically download it to 30, but I'm only going to be getting 30 amps of power into my RV and not the 50. Will I get electrical power in there? Yeah, absolutely. But I won't be able to run all the electrical connections and electronics in here that I would have if I had 50 amps. So try to get 50 amp if your RV obviously has got 50 amp. That's what you want to try to shoot for. Okay, so what is this doohickey right here? Well, a few minutes ago I described it as part of the longest extension cord going into our electrical box. That's not actually true. This is a separate device. This is a Progressive Industries 58 portable EMS, which stands for Electrical Management System with surge protection. So it is a surge protector, but there's a lot more to it other than just being a surge protector. What you do is you take your cord from your RV, your electrical cord, plug it into your Progressive Management EMS, then you take that and you plug it in here. And what this does, other than being a surge protector, is it basically monitors all the electricity coming in and out of the RV. It lets you know whether the receptacle box here at any RV park you're at is in fine working order, if it works, it's got some issues with it. It tells you exactly how much electrical power is coming out of the box, because a lot of times it may tell you it's 50 amp or 30 amp or whatever, but it's not really that. And this will tell you exactly what it is. So it's a lot more than just a regular surge protector. It is important to have two things in an RV to protect your RV. It's a surge protector and it is a water pressure valve regulator. I'll show that in a minute. But when you've got things flowing into your RV, you want to make sure that you can control that force that's going into it. Surge protectors, and I think we all know what surge protectors are used for, but it's going to protect you in case there's surges of electricity, whether it's high or low. It's not going to fry all your circuits or anything like that. Mathilda actually has a built-in surge protector, but this is just even added bonus, or this is even added protection for us. So we actually have two. So we've got this one, and then we've got one actually built inside the RV. Some RVs have that, Mathilda does, but we've got two just for safety. So once we get electricity hooked up to the RV and Karen's doing her arranging inside and I'm still outside, the next thing I want to get going on with the RV, and for Karen and for myself as well, I want to get the water going inside the RV. The rig does have a very large fresh water tank. It's got a 100-gallon fresh water tank, but I don't drive around with the fresh water gallon tank full. And the reason why I don't do that is because it's going to waste gasoline. Heavier the rig, the more gasoline you're going to be using when you're driving around. So I only keep like maybe a third of the tank, maybe a quarter to a third of the tank full of fresh water in the RV. That's in case an emergency pops up. If we've got a dry camp overnight in a Walmart parking lot, or we got to go someplace where they don't have any facilities. Let's say we go into an RV park and for whatever reason they blow in a water main and won't be working for a day or two. At least I've got some fresh water in the RV. So I drive around with about a third full. But once we get in here, we got the electricity set up, then we're going to do the water. Okay, that is just a standard El Cheapo green type garden hose that you can find at any hardware store anywhere in the United States, maybe even some grocery stores. It is super cheap. It's about one of the cheaper garden hoses you're going to get. That is not the hose that we use to get fresh water into the RV. We use this hose. This is a 0G hose. I'm not sure if it's, what else you'd call it, but it's a 0G hose, and this is a beauty. Karen got this for us after doing a lot of research, and this thing does not kink, it does not bend. I've never had any problems with it. It's great to connect and disconnect and roll up inside your RV. So once you get your 0G hose out, you're going to connect it into another external hose that comes out of the RV itself. This actually retracts by a hose reel. You pull it out and you want to retract it. It's kind of heavy. You push this button, it'll retract back up inside. What I do is you take it through this little flap here. You hook up your 0G hose to it, and then you run your 0G hose all the way over to a standard water spigot. Get my shadow out of here. Standard water spigot, and you can hook it up just like this. You can hook it up just like this, turn your water off and on. Obviously if you turn this, you know, water come out, it's going to come out. Same as here. I've got this on, there's water going in, there's water going to the 0G right now. So what are these three things going on right here? This is the water pressure regulator. I've got it set at about 40. Rick said I could usually keep it about 43. It's set at 40 right now. I don't know really what it should be set at. I know that 40 is very conservative, so I'm not concerned about a burst in the pipes or anything like that right now. It'll probably go higher, but you should definitely look at your own owner's manual and read about that and try to figure out exactly what your water pressure should be. I haven't done that yet, but mine's set at a conservative level about 40. So after I've got the water regulator, pressure regulator hooked up to the spigot, the next thing I've got hooked up is a water filtration system. What I've heard in research, you should change these about every 6 weeks. Mine's coming up. I need to change this pretty soon. I've got a couple more extra in the rig, but this obviously is a water filter system, because this is, although it's potable water, it's coming out from whatever water service is out here in the Gold Canyon area. It is probably still not the best water for you to drink. A lot of people don't like regular tap water, so we have an extra filter system here. So we attach this filter system on here. Then from the back end, you'll see this white hose. This is part of the water softener system. This is an on-the-go portable water softener system. It's gotten lots and lots of high recommendations, lots of really good reviews, and it was pretty easy to set up. So we purchased this shortly after we got here. We did not purchase this prior to us coming to the RV park. After we got here, several other RVers said, hey, if you don't have one yet, make sure you get a soft water system, because the water out here, especially in the Southwest United States, is really hard. So make sure you get a soft water system. So So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of the setup of the on-the-go water system. If you decide to get one of those yourself, you can certainly read the instructions, or you can do what I did and also look at some YouTube videos. But it was really easy to set up. I'm not mechanically inclined. I'm happy with it. It's got its own base stand here. It's got a rope. It's probably weighs about, I don't know, 20 or 30 pounds maybe. So the water's going inside here. There's salt in here. It's just like a hot water, it's just like a regular water softener at your home. Water's coming in here, it's softening it, the salt here, and then it's going through the 0G hose, which is going all the way back up into the RV, and now we got fresh water in the RV. Propane is pretty easy. I've got another video here I'm going to show in a few minutes about us getting some propane, because we were actually running low while we were staying here in the park, and we had a propane service company come out. If you've never hooked up propane before, if you're concerned about that, if you think it's a fire hazard, you don't know what you're going to do and you're going to blow up your RV, don't worry about it. The propane company came out here. They hooked everything up. In fact, they said I'm not even allowed to touch it. They hooked it up and they filled me up with propane, and I had no problem with that. Tank is right here. That's where, this is the on-off knob that's going to turn it on and off. That's all I ever deal with. I don't touch, simply it's to twist left or twist right to turn it off and on. It actually is a little dirty, but it's a propane rig. It's probably 8, 9 years old, but it's been checked out, serviced, everything is good on it, hoses are good, and it's just a simple rotating dial for on and off. They put the propane in here. It says fill. You don't touch that. They do it. It's really easy system to use. Just make sure that you need to have that on, obviously, if you're going to get a propane stove, or if you're going to get heat in your hot water system, your hot water tanks. That's how we heat our water up here. And then also for the furnace in your RV, if your rig is equipped with all that. Okay, so I'm going to go over, I'm not even sure what this whole section is called, but we're going to go over basically the plumbing main control, I guess is what you might call this, for the RV, or the power source, or at least the plumbing main control. We're going to start off here. We're going to start from the right. We're going to work our way left. This switch right here, and again, every rig is going to be different. I'm just showing you what we've got for Mathilda. Your rig may be similar, or may be completely different, but I'm just showing what we have for Mathilda. This, it's got two marks here: city water up and down, and it's got tank fill horizontal. Right now it's up and down, city water. That's what that's showing me is that we're getting water from city, what we refer to as city water, and it's going into the RV with this up and down. If I move this off to the left, you may hear this, sir. I'm not sure if you're going to hear it or not. Let's see. Not sure if you're hearing that or not, but what that's now doing is there's still water coming from the city, but instead of pressurizing the whole RV, it's now flowing into the water tank, which again holds about 100 gallons of water. You don't want to overflow that. We'll talk about that in a minute. You don't want to overflow that. There is no cutoff switch. Basically, there's an emergency overflow valve, but you don't want to do that. So we're going to put this back up here to tank fill. To city water. This is horizontal. And again, now we're getting pressure back into the RV, and you're not hearing that water tank fill up anymore. So what is this? Sewer valve flush system. What you're going to do is you're going to take your green hose that I showed you earlier that you get from any hardware store. You're going to connect it in here, and you're going to connect it into another water supply, and this is used to flush out your black tank. There are two different tanks in most RVs. There's the black tank and the gray tank. The black tank is your solid waste matter. And no, I'm not talking about from the garbage disposal. I'm talking about from the bathrooms. That's your solid waste water. That's the black tanks. This is to help flush that out. There's a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, but there's different opinions on how often you should use this. I have been told anywhere from, one guy told me he flushes his out about once every 6 weeks. We had another guy come out and tell us that no, we should flush it out once every 3 black tank dumps. And then I've talked to another guy, he says he flushes it out every time he dumps his black tank. So I've done mine probably twice a week now. Again, if there's any comments out there, someone wants to leave a comment on how often I should flush out my black tank, I'm more than receptive to that, but I'm kind of getting different opinions all over the place. But what you're going to do is you're going to take your regular cheap old garden hose, you're going to hook it up to the spigot. Do not use the 0G hose for this. This is to clean out your black tank. Do I really think any potential bacterial matter might backwash into the 0G hose? I don't think that's very possible if you got water flowing into it, but you don't want to take the chance. So you're not going to use the hose that you're using to drink from, which is your 0G hose. You're going to use your cheap green hose that you got from Ace Hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever. you're gonna hook that in here. You're gonna screw it on tight. This works really tight. Then you're gonna walk over there. You're gonna walk back over to the spigot. You're gonna turn the spigot on. The hose will prime, and then you're gonna get water going in here. So you're gonna have water going into your black tank. Mathilda is equipped with a monitoring system that is not, and they'll tell you, it's just to give you a general idea on how much liquids and so forth you've got in your various tanks. It is not an exact measurement. It's to give you a rough idea. But when you push this button for test, get these lights going here, you're gonna get various lights are lit up. It says LPG, that's your gas. I'm at 2/3 gas. Fresh, it says I'm full of fresh water. I think that's only just because I just turned on the water, and I think it kind of got some of the sensors in there a little bit moist or wet, because I don't have a full tank of fresh water. Then it's got my holding tank, which is my solid waste in my bathrooms. That's almost empty. I've dumped that before. And then my gray water, which is water you get from your showers and your sinks and so forth, is about 2/3 full. So when I'm flushing out my black tank, I'm gonna put this in here, I'm gonna turn the water on, and then every few minutes I'm gonna push this, and I'm gonna see, again here it doesn't say black tank, but that's what it is. You're gonna see it slowly go up. You do not want it to go in above at the very top and not be prepared to dump all this. Because if you've got that water going into your black tank and it goes up to the full mark and you don't dump it and there's water still coming into the black tank, what's gonna happen is it's gonna start coming out your toilets inside your rig, and there's also some kind of a relief valve on the roof of the rig, and you're literally gonna have raw sewage spewing out like a dark brown geyser on top of your RV, and all your neighbors are gonna laugh at you, or maybe they won't laugh at you, but they're gonna say, oh my God, come look at this guy, doesn't know what he's doing, because now he's got a geyser of unsanitary filth coming out on top of your RV, and you're gonna have to want to clean it up. So make sure you don't do that. When it starts to get to that top level, or right when you do see the indicator that it's at the very top level, be right out here, pull that black tank and dump that. So that way you're not gonna have a disaster. So after you've checked your gauge and you see that your a holding tank, it's listed a holding on mine, but most people refer to it as your black tank. When it is at the top and you've got this water coming in, you're doing your tank flush and you want to dump that, how do you do that? So again, there are two tanks. There's the black tank for raw sewage waste you're going to get from your bathrooms, your toilets, and then there is the gray water you're going to get from your sinks and your showers. So there's two valves here, and if you notice, I'm wearing gloves. There's a lot of bacteria down here. You want to be safe. You don't want to make sure that you're not touching anything you shouldn't. And whether you're wearing gloves or not, even if you are wearing gloves, make sure you wash your hands when you're done with all this. I always keep a box of really good sturdy work gloves here, and just to keep my hands clean. So there are two valves here to dump your black and gray tanks. The gray tank is colored gray, and the black tank is colored black. So when you pull this, and I've already dumped it. So when you pull this, you're going to have your water come through here, and you're going to be able to see it. This is a clear, and it's good to see. It's actually good to see your wastewater come through, and I'll explain to that in a minute. But you need to have it clear so you can see what's going on. When you do dump it, though, don't do what I just did. Don't dump your gray first. What you want to do is you want to dump your black first. I'm not going to do that right now, because if I pull out my black, and there is some wastewater in my black, if I pull that out, you're going to see Blue Line RV Adventures wastewater come through here, and people need to see that, so I'm just going to try to describe this to you the best I can. You're basically going to see dirty water come through here, and you're going to see it go empty. When it's empty, you know your black tank is empty, so you're going to push that back in. Then you're going to pull out your gray tank, which is, in my case, is already empty, and your shower water, sink water, whatever is going to come through here, obviously much more clear. And the reason why you always want to do your gray tank second is because it's going to flush out any potential foreign objects, things that are just grungy and you don't want stuck in your hose. This water, the gray tank, is going to help flush all that out. So one of the other questions I found out in the RV community is, do you leave, when you're here at an RV park, do you leave your gray water, do you leave your gray tank open, your black tank open? Do you keep them both open, maybe just one of them open or both of them shut? One thing I found out pretty universally is you should always keep your black tank shut, because you want some moisture, some liquid always inside your black tank, because if it gets dry inside that black tank, it becomes sediment. It's very, very hard, and it's just going to be a nightmare if it gets hard and condensed and calcified inside your black tank. You don't want that to happen. So I keep my black tank shut, And what I also do is I keep my gray tank shut. Just a few moments ago it was open, but that's just because for demonstration purposes. But I always keep my gray tank shut as well. Why do I do that? Because that goes right into the sewer system. It's just a straight line into the sewer system. And what lives in sewer systems? Bugs, sewer flies, things like that. And hypothetically, potentially, I guess some people have seen it, sewer flies can come up this hose and they can go inside here. And if you've got one or both of these open, you're gonna have sewer flies inside your rig. So when you're lifting up your toilet, potentially you could have flies come out. So you don't want to have that happen. So you want to have your gray tank shut and your black tank shut when not in use. This is set up actually for cable television and telephone connections. There are some RV parks, again, Karen and I will have been to just a couple, but there are some RV parks that do have telephone connection and cable television connection. The freshwater spigot here is really unusual. I've had several people look at this system so far that I've got that are other RVers out here. They said this is really unusual. They don't see that too often. But this is a freshwater spigot. Again, I wouldn't probably drink out of this, but if you want to wash your dog or something like that, you can certainly do that. This is actually a shower. This is an outdoor shower, which is broken. I broke it the other day, so I've got to fix my outdoor shower. But this was an outdoor shower system that comes out. And again, this is also for I mean, I wouldn't, only in an emergency would I wash my hair or something with this. This is more for the dogs, or if you want to wash your feet off on a day at the beach or something like that. This section over here is a freshwater fill tank. If I am out boondocking somewhere, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert, and I want to add fresh water to my freshwater tank, I've got no hookups, how do I do it? I can unscrew this and make sure that I put clean water into this, and that's going to go directly into my freshwater tank. There are portable bladders that are for sale out there where you can go out and buy portable bladders, and you can go to various potable water locations, facilities, fill up your bladder, maybe anywhere from 40, 50, 60 gallons, and then maybe either pour it in here with a pump. You're going to pump it in here and get yourself your fresh water. So that's it from Base Camp COVID. No, not Base Camp COVID. So that's pretty much it as far as our RV life right now. I do have some wildlife some videos that are coming up. We bumped into a rattlesnake. I shouldn't say we bumped into him, but we were out on a campfire. We had a campfire going here, and we were having some adult beverages with some good neighbors, and as the camp was starting to get sparse, not many people here. And I don't want to say it was a commotion, but I heard some talking behind Mathilda. So here's the back of Mathilda. We were actually on the other side of the rig having some adult beverages, like I said. And then this is a wash, and we heard some people talking. Not really like a commotion, but you could tell there was a flurry of conversation, I guess, going on. And my former law enforcement ears said that doesn't quite sound right. So I looked over, and right where that pickup truck was, in between the pickup truck and the rocks right there on the street, was this. So literally just on the other side of the wash, about 15 yards, was a diamondback rattlesnake. And then I thought, well, if he's 15 yards behind the RV, he could certainly pop up here. We have to be careful of it. I mean, snakes, when you live in Arizona, especially into the desert, you know, rattlesnakes are a common thing. They just are. I was born in Arizona. I've seen rattlesnakes before. You just have to be careful. Rattlesnakes aren't stalking humans. Generally, when they rattle, it's a warning. It's like, hey, stay away from me. I don't want you around me, because they're afraid and nervous. Not all the time, but most of the times when people are getting bit by rattlesnakes, they're a little bit reckless. But again, that's not all the time. You could certainly be walking around furniture out here on your little patio area, or under your RV, under your tires, or even under your steps, and you could be stepping out of your rig, and there could be a rattlesnake there. So you have to be cognizant of the rattlesnakes. There is actually a tarantula. So right over here, the entrance to the dog park is right here. So right here in this third box is a hole. And every once in a while, you can see them in the daytime. But if you look down, no guarantees here, but if you look down, you might be able to see his legs. Take a look here. It looks completely barren. But that's a tarantula burrow. So I have seen his legs, and then one time, tarantulas are pretty much nocturnal, probably in there sleeping. So one time I came around, and now that I know he's there, every time I come out, I started looking right where his burrow is. And I brought the dogs out one night, and he was actually outside of his burrow about 8, 9 o'clock at night. He scurried back inside real fast because tarantulas are timid. Don't think of Hollywood movies or anything like that with giant tarantulas, and they're trying to kill people or destroy cities. And Clint Eastwood in a fighter jet has got to basically drop napalm on him.
Fire 2 rockets on this first pass. Here goes. Dropping napalm. Follow an order. Dump them all.
Nothing like that at all. Tarantulas are very timid spiders. They don't like human contact. They don't want to go out and bite you for no reason at all. They basically eat crickets and small bugs, and the poison, the venom that the tarantulas do have in them is not deadly to humans. If you're bitten by a tarantula, it's not going to kill you. So I don't have any video of them now. As this series goes on and I try to do some more editing, I might be able to get a shot of him later on. I'm going to try to set up the tripod. We'll see how it goes. If I don't get any on this video, I'll see if I can get some on the later video, but I'm going to try to get a shot of our friendly local neighborhood tarantula. Okay. So Tristan, what are we going to do?
We're gonna catch the tarantula.
The tarantula, and he's actually already halfway out. So I'm going to try to zoom in on him the best I can. If you can see that, those are tarantula legs right there. So we're going to set this out right here. That was cool. Keep going. Golfer in the making. Not concentrating.
Not concentrating. Come on, you can do it.
You're making me not concentrate.
Yay.
Okay, so you were my assistant tonight,
Yes.
and what did we do? What did we film?
A tarantula.
Was that the first tarantula you ever saw?
No.
No, where'd you see the other one at? In the zoo, or where'd you see the other one?
I saw the other one in like a zoo or
A zoo. But this was a wild one. Pretty cool, right?
Yes.
Say Blue Line Adventures, we got your 6.
Blue Line Adventures, we got your 6.
Perfect.